Morning comes slowly to Massachusetts. Not sunrise, light first. A grey wash settles over fields of frozen grass. The ground is stiff with the last cold of night. Frost holds the earth together. Nothing moves yet. A crow breaks the quiet. Then another answers somewhere beyond the trees. A farmhouse stands alone beside a narrow dirt road. Smoke leaks from the chimney and hangs low in the still air. It smells of oak and damp wool. Inside, wood shifts in the hearth. A log collapses into embers. Samuel Whittemore wakes before the fire fully catches. He sits up without hurry. The room is dark except for the orange pulse of coals. His joints move carefully but not weakly. He has done this every morning for decades. The body remembers even when it aches. Floorboards creak under his weight. Cold air touches his feet. He dresses in layers already stiff from yesterday's sweat and smoke. Shirt, waistcoat, coat. The fabric carries the smell of animals, iron tools and black powder, scents that never quite leave a working farm. Outside, the world is wider than any country. In 1696, when he is born, this place is only an edge of England, a scattering of settlements pressed into forest. Beyond the tree line there are no roads, only direction. Survival is not dramatic here. It is routine. He grows into a hunter because everyone does. He learns a musket because every man must. Militia days are less about war than readiness. Neighbours standing in a field, checking flints, measuring distance by eye. Time passes in seasons instead of years. Children grow. Crops fail. Snow returns. Empires argue across oceans. No one here will ever see. He fights in earlier wars, though they barely feel like history when they happen. Marching, waiting, damp powder. The long boredom between sudden noise. Afterwards he returns home the same way each time, to fences needing repair and animals needing feed. No speeches, no medals. By the time he reaches old age, kings have changed, maps have changed, wagons pass, hooves beat dirt flat. Life continues close to the ground. He is not a rebel, he is not a politician. He is a man who expects tomorrow to resemble today. That expectation lasts 78 years. Then, one April morning, distant pops travel across the cold air. Sharp sounds that do not belong to hunting season. April 19th, 1775. Dawn arrives colder than it should for spring. Hoof prints from yesterday have frozen into shallow bowls of ice. When the wind moves, they clink softly against each other. For a while the morning sounds ordinary. Chickens shifting in a yard. A bucket touching the side of a well. The steady tear of cloth somewhere inside a house. Then a distant crack reaches the town. Not thunder, too sharp, too brief. No one moves at first. Sound travels strangely across open land. It could be miles away. It could be nothing. Another crack follows, then several together. Dogs begin barking along the road, one after another, the noise passing house to house, faster than a man can run. Samuel Whittemore pauses beside a fence post. His hand rests on the wood. He listens without turning his head. More shots now. Faint, but constant. A rhythm instead of accidents. The road to Lexington lies beyond the low hills. Smoke is not visible yet, but the air carries something bitter underneath the cold. Burned powder riding the morning damp. People step outside. Doors open carefully. No shouting, just watching. Everyone knows soldiers marched out of Boston in the night. Everyone hoped they would not come back angry. By mid-morning the sound grows clearer. Single shots become rolling bursts, then scattered again, then closer. A wagon rattles past at speed, wheels striking stones hard enough to splinter the silence. The driver does not slow. His horse is white with sweat despite the chill. No explanation is given, none is needed. War is moving down the road. Families begin carrying what they can. Blankets, tools, children half-dressed. Chickens scatter loose into the brush. A door slams and keeps swinging in the wind long after the house is empty. Whittemore walks back inside his home. He takes down his musket. The metal is cool and familiar in his hands. He checks the flint, tightens the jaw, measures powder by habit, not sight. The ramrod slides down with a dull wooden knock. 2 pistols follow into his coat. Last, the sword. The leather belt creaks as he pulls it tight. Outside, the gunfire is no longer distant. Individual shots separate from the echo. Voices carry faintly between them. Not words, just human sound forced into effort. He steps onto the road. No hurry, no searching. He moves to a low stone wall beside a bend where the ground narrows and waits. The way a hunter waits when the forest grows suddenly quiet. The wind shifts. Now he hears boots. The sound arrives before the soldiers. Boots striking packed earth in rough unison, not marching cleanly anymore. The rhythm is uneven, tired. Equipment knocks against itself, metal on metal, leather slapping wool. Then voices, hoarse, irritated, some laughing too loudly, the way men do after fear has not yet left the body. The column rounds the bend, red coats dulled by dust, faces grey with sweat and powder smoke. A few men glance toward the houses but keep moving. They want the road behind them more than the town beside them. Whittemore does not move behind the stone wall. The breeze carries the smell of them first. Wet cloth, unwashed bodies, sulphur from spent cartridges. The scent sits heavy in the throat. He raises the musket. The wood rests into his shoulder as naturally as setting down a tool. No ceremony, no shout. He fires. The shot breaks the morning apart. One grenadier falls instantly, legs gone before the sound finishes echoing off the houses. For a fraction of a second, the column freezes. They cannot place the direction. The smoke from the muzzle hangs white against the darker trees. Whittemore drops the empty musket and draws a pistol. He steps around the wall now, not hiding. The second shot is closer. A man spins sideways into another, both collapsing into the dirt road. Shouting erupts. Some soldiers crouch. Others point in different directions at once. Orders try to form but dissolve under adrenaline. Whittemore keeps walking toward them. The third shot, his last pistol, fires into the front of the cluster. A hat lifts from a head and lands several feet away before the man follows it down. The distance closes to only a few strides. He draws the sword. The blade leaves the scabbard with a dry metallic rasp that vanishes beneath the sudden roar of return fire. Muskets flash. The first ball strikes his face. His head snaps back, but his feet do not stop. Powder smoke envelops the space between him and the nearest soldier, turning shapes into shadows. He swings once. The motion is heavy and direct, the movement of someone who has cut wood far more often than men. Another shot hits his chest. The impact folds his coat inward. He stumbles but remains upright, boots sliding in loose dirt churned by many feet. Now the soldiers rush him. Bayonets drive forward in short, brutal thrusts. Cloth tears. Steel enters and leaves. The sounds are close. Breath, grunts, the wet impact of bodies colliding in confined space. No speeches, no last words, only effort. He falls at last when his legs fail beneath him. The sword drops from his hand into the road with a dull, flat clang. The firing has already begun elsewhere again. The column moves on, stepping around and over what lies in their path. Orders pull them forward toward Boston. Silence returns in pieces. Smoke thins. A shutter knocks against a house frame. Somewhere, a chicken calls uncertainly from hiding. Whittemore lies on his back beside the road. His coat darkens into the dust. Breath rattles shallow in his throat, then slows, then nearly disappears. The town waits. No one approaches for a long time. When at last a door opens and careful footsteps cross the yard, they come only to move a body from the road. A hand touches his shoulder. His eyes open. They do not expect weight when they lift him. Dead men are heavy in a different way. They hang, they settle, they do not resist. But Samuel Whittemore shifts as they turn him. A breath slips from his mouth, thin and wet. Someone steps back quickly, boots scraping dirt. Another leans closer, listening for it again. For a moment there is only the ticking of cooling metal somewhere in the road, and the distant fading gunfire toward Boston. Then his chest moves once more. Not a gasp, a slow attempt. They carry him inside. The house smells of ash and overturned furniture. A chair lies broken near the hearth, where it was pushed aside in haste. He is lowered onto a table, cleared moments before of bread and tools. Blood spreads across the wood in narrow lines finding the grain. His coat is cut away. Powder burns mark the cloth. Beneath it the wounds are close, deliberate, made at arm's reach. No one speaks about surviving them. They work instead, cloth pressed down, water poured, hands shaking only when they stop moving. A doctor arrives near midday, summoned from a neighbouring settlement. His horse is lathered and trembling. The man himself smells of cold air and leather and the sharp vinegar he carries for cleaning. He pauses when he sees the body on the table. There is too much damage, a ball through the face, another in the chest, steel wounds deep enough to disappear in shadow. He begins anyway. Hours pass in small sounds. Scissors cutting thread, liquid poured into bowls, the low murmur of voices that never rise. Outside, the road grows quiet. The war has moved on, leaving only drifting smoke and doors left open to empty yards. Whittemore does not wake, but he does not leave. By evening the bleeding slows. His breathing evens into something fragile but steady. The doctor sits back at last, hands stained dark to the wrist, and listens to the rhythm settle. Night comes. The fire is rebuilt. Someone keeps watch beside him, adding wood when it collapses into embers. Each time the flames brighten, his chest can be seen rising beneath the bandages. Morning returns. He is still there. Days follow with little change. Then small changes. A swallow of water that stays down. Fingers curling once against the blanket. Weeks later he stands with help. The floorboards creaking under cautious weight. Outside spring deepens. Wagons begin using the road again. The air loses the smell of powder. The war continues across the colonies. Samuel Whittemore heals in his own house, listening to distant news carried by travellers. Battles, retreats, victories, all happening somewhere beyond his fields. By summer, he walks without help. He feeds his animals, repairs a fence, and the town begins telling the story quietly at first, then with certainty. The old man who was killed, and then was not. Years pass, but the road does not change quickly. Spring mud dries into summer dust. Winter presses it flat again. Wagon wheels carve the same shallow lines they always have. Travellers still follow the bend beside the stone wall, though many slow as they approach it now. They look. Sometimes they stop. The war moves elsewhere for a long time. To fields and rivers Whittemore will never see. News arrives as voices first, facts later. Victories are spoken carefully, defeats more quietly. Names of places drift through the town and settle without shape. Inside the house, life resumes its pattern. He wakes early, feeds animals, splits wood measured by comfort rather than strength. His movements are slower but not fragile. The scars remain visible, reminders to everyone except the man carrying them. He does not describe the morning on the road unless asked. And even then the words stay plain, stripped of drama. A shot, another. Then they came close. Visitors begin appearing once the fighting ends for good. Some come out of curiosity, others out of respect they do not quite know how to show. They stand awkwardly near the doorway, hats turning in their hands, unsure whether to speak to him as a farmer or something larger. He offers neither. A chair by the hearth, a place to sit, ordinary conversation. Children stare most openly. They look from the old man to the road outside, trying to place the story onto the quiet space they can see. He notices but does not explain. The past does not look different from the present here. Seasons continue their slow rotation. The colonies become states. New words enter common speech. Independence, republic, spoken casually by people born after the gunfire. The country grows outward while he remains in place, the distance between events and memory stretching thinner each year. Travellers begin saying the war feels long ago. Whittemore still walks past the stone wall. Grass grows thicker around it now. The marks left by boots and bodies faded long before memory does. Wind moves through the same trees that watch the column pass. On quiet mornings the air carries only birds and the soft knock of loose fence boards. He grows very old, 90 years, then more. By the time his steps finally stop, the nation born that day is already settled into the routine. Laws written, leaders replaced, arguments begun again under different names. The road carries ordinary traffic once more, but people continue pointing to the bend. Not to remember a victory, not even to remember a battle, to remember that before the country existed, a single man stood in its path and did not step aside.